Well, I'm gonna have my honeydew and eat it too. Life can be twice as nice on the farm. On the farm with a microbrew.
Katie, Carey, Columbus Foodscapes, welcome to the Foodscaper podcast. For the second time, you're the first guest ever who's come back for a second time.
Thanks for having me back, Matt. It's good to see you.
I hope it feels like the honor that it feels like for me.
It does feel like an honor. It feels like catching up with an old friend.
Yes, which is one of the ironic things about doing this work is that it kind of starts off as just getting to know people. Sometimes you just interview people you don't know, and then years later you're Foodscape friends, part
I
of the
know.
Foodscape
That's the cool thing
family.
about this community for sure. Yeah.
You were kind of like one of the original OG foodscapers at our first conference and kind of been following along ever since. Is that right?
Yeah. Obsessively stalking the Foodscaper, yes, is a more accurate description for sure.
Thank you for for that.
Yeah.
Um, you were one of our first guests on the podcast, and at that time you were like pretty early stage, and I just felt like, wow, this Katie in Columbus, like she's asking all the right questions. She's like dialed in and focused and so warm and sweet. And even though you weren't like a lot of the other guests on the podcast who had significantly more experience, I felt like you could really speak to what the startup phase of
Mm.
a foodscaping company looked and felt like and just be authentic in that way. And now we've been in touch these last several years and I've seen your business explode and just just flower and fruit, and now there is like the life cycle is being completed and you have shared with me recently just in our pre-interview here like this has been a banner year. You're seeing
Yeah.
all of the telltale signs of graduating from beginning foodscaper to intermediate foodscaper, where you've got more projects, exciting opportunities, employees, growth opportunities, and all of these things that I guess for me at least, like these were part of my dream as well. And just to have more impact, to be more with a team. And um, that's why I wanted to have you on to talk about all that growth and share that story. So,
I'm really flattered by your kind words. Thank you. Yeah, it's been such an honor to get to like sit at the table at the Foodscaper community and just get to soak up all the knowledge that everybody has. So thank you.
yeah. So, for those who don't know about Columbus Foodscapes, let's get like the elevator pitch of just what it is that you do, because a lot of people who listen to this may not have listened to our first episode.
Yeah, sure. So, Columbus Foodscapes, we are an edible landscaping company in Columbus, Ohio. We sort of serve the greater central Ohio area, though. And we do everything from consultation and design all the way up to installation and maintenance. Something that's pretty unique about our specific landscaping company as well is that we tend to lean a bit more into education as well. So we sort of have this philosophy that folks who want to learn how to grow their own food and maybe even learn how to build parts of their own garden, we can help teach them how to do that so that they can do it themselves and have a little bit of sweat equity in their work. But I'd say our bread and butter is primarily installations. We do quite a few installations and maintenance jobs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. That gets us grounded. I think that what you do is very similar to the work that I have been doing, which is, vegetable gardens, ecological landscaping, fruit trees, food forest type stuff,
Yes.
helping
Yeah,
people
definitely.
plan their food producing landscape, as we like to say.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like the content of our installations tend to lean pretty heavily into raised bed vegetable gardens, um, ecological native garden spaces that are sort of tend to be supportive in those yards. And then more recently, we've started to get actually into larger farm projects and like management of community garden spaces, which has been really fun. So those tend to be what people hire us for.
Heck yeah. Well, let's talk about that because I think so many of us come from this very idealistic angle of like wanting to be woven into the fabric of the community. And then a lot of times we end up spending our time in the backyards of, the wealthy, and that represent the meat and potatoes of the business so that we can do the other stuff that is more life-giving. Not that the people with the money, deserve a garden any less. Like I'm fine with that work, but yeah, it's nice to diversify and have be all over town.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so first question I wanted to ask you is just like looking back on the early days of the business and you being the solo entrepreneur, and just kind of curious, like what stands out to you from that phase when you think about from our first conversation when you were kind of juggling all those balls?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're entering into our sixth year now, in 2026. And what stands out to me about those early years is how freaking much I worked.
Oh,
I feel like I worked so hard, and like constantly. And man, I'm glad I did because like it has built something really beautiful and special and sustainable. But yeah, when I think about those years, it was like, man, I was like on fire. I had this vision and I was like kind of running myself into the ground sometimes for it. And then gradually, year after year, I sort of was able to back off and be a little bit wiser with my energy, I think, and a little bit more sustainable in that way too. So,
yeah. And so much of that I feel like just depends on when in life this work finds you, and if you can put that kind of time in and it makes, energetic sense and life sense, then
really.
sometimes that is the best move, and sometimes it's burnout city and not.
Yeah, in some ways I was lucky because I think I was 24 maybe when I started it. Low bills. I was living with a bunch of roommates. Like I didn't have any kids or dog. Like I had the luxury of running myself into the ground a little bit. Like nobody else was relying on me.
Yep.
Um, and that changes for most people as you get older. So, um,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I always think about it kind of being the school of life, and this is how we gain the skills to like call ourselves a professional in a trade, if you will, and by putting in a lot of hours. And
Yeah.
sometimes it just feels really good to just like cram before the test, if you will. And
Yes. Totally. Yeah, and it's one big experiment when you're starting out, and like every single element of it is experimental, for at least it was for me. I was very favorable towards reinventing every wheel I could, and then so I did a lot of stuff over again. It was fine.
yep.
Um,
So we're here to talk because like you're not there anymore and a lot has changed. And what has changed? Like where are you now? How would you characterize the place that Columbus Foodscapes has arrived at these days?
yeah, so yeah, there's been some really big major changes these last 6 years just in terms of growth. I would say one of the biggest changes is that we have a staff now that sort of is more stable. So my life partner, Joe, joined us 4 years ago and he became our builder. So essentially, I had this second person who was building all of our raised beds for us and like, arbors and all this other stuff. And also, it didn't take a lot of convincing to have him also help me do things like desodding and putting in edging and becoming a little bit of a landscaper as well as we sort of built this business out. So that was one of the major changes. It was great for morale. It was also just great for like human power in that way of doing these installations. I got very lucky in that way. Um, some of the other major changes, like we got a truck and a trailer. That was a really big game changer a couple years ago. And just the capacity that we had for installation changed literally overnight. And I see you smiling because I know you know what that's like. Like I always tell the story that I started Columbus Foodscapes in my Honda Accord. It's like a four-door, and I just kind of wrecked it trying to do it. Like I would have like straw and one time a squashed snake like falling out of my car, going to these places. And it just there's a certain point where you have to make the switch into something that's more commercial if you're going to do some of that installation and maintenance work. So that was kind of the other major thing. We'd call her Cherry Belle is our truck, because she's the color of the cherry bell radish.
Hmm.
And then we have the trailer too. So that was a big change. And then this last year in 2025, I finally made the transition to hiring. So before then, we were using subcontractors. And I say we, I mean me, I was using subcontractors. And like, we would book out maybe a few jobs a month, installation wise, that I would maybe need to hire some hands for. And then maintenance wise, I kind of was handling most of it by myself. Um, but then it got to the point where we sort of just had enough jobs booked far enough in advance that I really felt like it was time to hire. So we hired two part-time employees. They were each like 3 to 4 days a week, depending on what their schedule was like every week, like March through December. And one of them I kept on for admin work in the winter as well. So employees just change everything. I know we'll talk
Yeah.
about that more today, but that was another big change.
I want to jump in and just kind of repeat back to you a little bit of the story you said because it's a really important one, I think, for early stage foodscapers. And you can correct me if I get any of this wrong, but basically what you're saying is that when you started out, you're kind of working solo, you're lining up installations. Some of the work of the installation you're subcontracting, some of it
Mhm.
you are hiring just like gig work help to
Yeah,
do heavy lifting. And then the maintenance pieces, whether that's like perennials or vegetable gardens, you're doing that on your own in the meantime. So there's kind of like all these different pieces filling in the schedule. And then arrives a day when you're actually booked out so far with your
yeah,
installations that it's like, I can take the risk of
yeah.
hiring. And does that sound right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I want to get into the hiring because that is such a key part of growth for so many foodscapers and a really scary part. But can we dive deeper into the subcontractor thing for a minute?
Yeah,
Because
totally.
what would you tell somebody who is saying like, how do I work with a subcontractor? Like, what does that even mean? How do I approach them? And what does the agreement look like?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's several ways you can do it. I sort of took two approaches and I hybridized them. So the first way is to, you know, think about the things that you might be doing in an install. So for example, building raised beds or, some of the hardscaping stuff like desodding and installing edging and gravel and mulch or whatever. That kind of stuff tends to require like equipment. It's nice to have somebody who has trucks and trailers and things like that already existing. Not necessary all the time, but it can be helpful. So, um, I feel like the first way is sort of to like break down these parts of an installation and then look for people who can help you with those parts. I think the looking for people part can happen in kind of a couple different ways. Like you can literally go, I mean, there were times where I would literally go online and just search like landscapers, read through reviews, create a spreadsheet of all these landscapers and just start like cold calling people and get a vibe of, are they going to work with somebody this little? Are they okay with subcontracting? Some landscapers aren't. Like the bigger ones usually don't want to deal with it. Um, do they have fundamental respect for me as a woman who's landscaping? Sometimes they didn't, so they would go off the list. Those kinds of things. And then honestly, Matt, like because I was already in the farming and gardening world, I sometimes would just end up hiring people who were my colleagues or coworkers before
Yeah.
in my previous jobs or who were my friends and were in between jobs or whatever it was and say, hey, do you want to come make some money shoveling with me today? Stuff that didn't require high skill in terms of like hardscaping. Like, you want to hire somebody who knows what they're doing for a patio, but shoveling soil is kind of like most people can do, right? Most able-bodied people can do. So I would hire my friends a lot and say, "Do you want to come help me do this thing?" And it just happened to work out that I most of the time would have some availability, like people would have some availability to come help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're not working with the subcontractors anymore, and then you made this leap this year to like hire. And what was it that more specifically gave you the confidence that it was time to make that switch?
Yeah. Oh, I took so long to make the switch. I was so afraid. Like when I think about the feeling last winter that I had when I was preparing to hire, last March, and the feeling I have this year, it's like night and day. So let me just say that first off, like I was petrified. I was so scared I was going to do something wrong legally. I was very worried about not being a good enough leader. Like there were just the list of fears was endless. And I think for me, it was a real like jumping off the cliff moment. Like it just sort of felt like what I was doing in terms of installing and doing maintenance primarily by myself, it started to feel really unsustainable um, because we were getting bigger and bigger jobs, and they were taking longer than I wanted them to. And I think it sounds a little silly, but honestly, like there was a part of me that just needed other people for morale as well.
Yeah.
It's really draining to do stuff by yourself every single day, all day. And there was a time when I needed to do that and I really enjoyed it and it was okay. Because I could make my own schedule and I could show up when I want. And, like there were things that were really nice about it. But I think that I felt really ready both for the support in installations and also for the accountability of like, okay, this isn't like a gig anymore. You know what I mean? This isn't just I get to make my own schedule and sort of figure it out as I go along. There still is always some of that as a business owner, but it was a lot more like, okay, like we're showing up at 9, I'm showing up at 8:30 for them, and I'm here for them now, which is a really different feeling.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I so relate to this feeling of being terrified and not really knowing what was going to happen. Were there any indicators that you would say like helped you have that confidence that it was time to go for it? I mean, besides the fact that maybe you were a little bit over like working by yourself and you were over just
Yeah.
like the gig type vibe, but how did you approach the financial piece?
Yeah, so I think practically, like the first thing is that financially, I made sure that we had enough savings for like I think it was 3 weeks of payroll. If you're somebody who wants more buffer, it might be more, but that was to ensure that if for some reason, there were pockets of time where I couldn't, where we didn't have any jobs lined up, that I could still afford to pay them and basically like keep them on hold or work in my backyard or like whatever the thing was so that I could still keep them as employees. So I guess financially, yeah, the one thing is like having a savings for buffer room. And then the other practical thing that we did was I made sure that we were booked out at least like 6 to 8 weeks. And it was in the spring when I hired. So I made sure we were booked out 6 to 8 weeks in the spring, which was not that hard to do because spring is always, gets booked out quick. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The thing about hiring people is then you've got to like train them and onboard them. And I'm wondering, did you do any like just deeper thinking around the culture that you wanted to create now that you were bringing in these other people?
Yeah, I did. I thought about it a lot. And now that we're wrapping up our first real year together as a staff, continue to still think about it, and we're still implementing new practices and stuff that I can talk more about. But one of the things that we did first off that I really, really liked and I recommend, I would do again if I was hiring again, was we had our like staff meeting in the spring, the three of us together, and myself and the two new hires. And we went through like all the regular stuff, right? We talked about the employee handbook and I made a slideshow of like all the jobs that we had coming up in the spring so they could kind of feel confident about what was
Mm.
coming up and what to expect. And then we did this thing, I called it the community code.
Mm.
So everybody we all three of us got a list of questions, and it was stuff like, how do you like to be communicated to and with? Like, what are some jobs that you've had, or what are some times in your working life where you felt really appreciated and valued, and like, what did that look like for you? And then I had this whole list of questions. We all answered them individually, and then we shared at the end. And it was cool. It was a really vulnerable exercise, and I think it sort of like I could kind of feel the room relax a little bit when we did it, because it felt a little bit more on a friend level. And then we had this big piece of paper in the middle of the table with the words community code in the middle, and we were basically making like a mind map of
Mhm.
our agreement with each other, and it was things like we ask each other for help when we need it, and we ask for clarification. We communicate clearly. I could probably try to find it and pull it up and tell you some more of the things that we came up with, but it was cool. I really felt like it set the stage for the rest of the year, just as far as this feeling of like I wasn't, as the boss, giving them this list of things that were expectations. Um, I mean, I was through this employee handbook, but there was also this shared agreement of like all of us came with ideas, all of us wrote them down, and we agreed on them.
I want to take a quick pause and let you all know about something new that I'm now offering through the Foodscaper. I am now doing one-on-one coaching for people who want to start or build an edible ecological landscaping business. We're going to map out a plan to get your first clients. I'll support you through designs, proposals, pricing. I'll be there through it all because we are going to be meeting regularly. And when you're done, you're going to have the tools you need to support the growth of your business into one that actually supports your livelihood and your community. So email me, matt@thefoodscaper.com for more info. And now let's dig back into this conversation. Fantastic ideas. Like I love that as a just onboarding protocol, getting to really know what people's communication style is, hearing about some of their previous experience. Anything else feel like a win from the culture that you started to establish this year?
We did a couple ice cream days. We call them ice cream days because you call them ice cream days. I got it from you. Isn't that what you guys call them? You guys call
We
them ice cream days,
yes,
right, Matt?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was just I would buy everybody lunch, or sometimes there was one day where we stopped early and got ice cream. But yeah, brutal days. Like there was one day we were shoveling soil. It was like 14 yards of soil or something, and it was raining, it was slippery and really
Oh,
hard, and like it was tough. It was a tough day. Yeah, you understand it was a tough day. Um, so I like got everybody a really nice lunch, and one day where it was super hot and it was just like we were all kind of dying in the heat. We stopped a little bit early for ice cream, like just some stuff like that. I think treating people as people first has been a really big priority to
mm,
me. One of the really nice things about our work is that nothing is life or death, and nothing is that urgent. Like no matter how we feel like it is that urgent, maybe there's some things if an irrigation line breaks or something, maybe there's some things that feel really urgent, but like for the most part, if somebody's having a really awful day, somebody's grandparent died, somebody's sick, like there's nothing that can't wait. So that's kind of how we do things.
yeah. You had just been kind of hiring friends and things like that before, but now these were like real employees you were committing to 3 or 4 days a week. How did you find these people? It sounds like they were such a great fit. Like so many of
Yeah.
us are trying to figure out how do we find good workers that are culturally aligned and also like in it to win it, like meaning they want to work hard in
Yeah.
the harsh weather.
So I think that in my case, it just happened to be beginner's luck. I mean, I posted the jobs on our website with the descriptions and pay ranges and all of those normal things. We posted it on our Instagram, sent out a newsletter, and the perfect people just found us. I, yeah, I wish I could say more on that or give more advice, but it really just was like the perfect people found us. So we got maybe I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 applicants. Um, and then narratives.
The audio kind of,
Okay.
yeah, the audio, it kind of
Oh,
went spacey.
weird. I can answer it again. Can you hear me
Um,
still?
yeah, yeah, I think maybe we're back on. I'm just checking my internet and
That's okay.
yeah, I'm fully connected. Yeah, I think for the most part we're okay. I think we can move on.
Okay. Are you sure? Okay, I can answer it again if you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I think you're fine. I think we're fine. Um, so
Cool.
yeah, beginner's luck. That is one way of putting it. Another way of putting it is that you've been kind of out in the community, like doing your thing, setting yourself up for that beginner's luck. Because of course, like you attract the kinds of energy and the kinds of people that you want to be working with. And if you're kind of siphoned off on your own, not stirring that up in your life, then it doesn't, come back around, karmically in that, in a sense. I don't know. Does it feel like that way at all to you?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I hate to put too much credit on myself, like it just feels like I feel lucky, so it's hard to like say that it was something I did. But I think you might be right. Yeah, we had a decent enough following, and the other thing I did when I posted the jobs was I emailed a bunch of our clients who I just felt like kind of I had become either friends
Mm.
with or were pretty close with, and who I knew were really rooting for me. You know what I mean? And those people were able to share with their people as well. So.
What did training look like? How did you go about it? What were some things that went well? What were some things that didn't?
Yeah. So for training, it was all on-site training. So they trained while we did jobs. And I don't know. It's like I tried to arrange it in our spring schedule last year so that the quote unquote like easier or kind of simpler jobs came first so that we could sort of get our wings under us as a team. Um, and then we would schedule more complex things as we went on. And the other thing I did that was nice was it, even though I felt very guilty about it at first and it was pretty weird for me, is I tried to practice as much as I could leaving them alone on site. Um, so my role like was both business owner and installation manager, right? I was the one driving the truck and the trailer and moving supplies and picking up soil and arranging our schedule and all of these things. Um, so I was doing all of that, plus also all of the regular stuff like consultations and proposals and making sure our finances were in order. And like it was a lot. And so what I would do is I would start the day off with our crew and make sure they had everything set up, work with them for just a little bit, maybe demo some stuff if I needed to demo it. We would mark out lines if we needed to mark out lines, whatever the stuff was to get them set up, right? And then I would leave, sometimes for like 6 hours at a time. And I would go work in a coffee shop nearby. I would leave sometimes also to like go pick up more material or go to a consultation or whatever. And I would still try to be as available to them as possible. Um, but I think like it was helpful to do that almost right away because they got used to working by themselves more. And I got used to, honestly, for me, it was more like I got used to leaving it in their hands. And it's kind of anxiety inducing doing that for the first couple times. And so like the sooner I did it, the better, rip off the Band-Aid a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good system, especially of being close by, where if you're needed in the case of a pinch, like you can come by, you're not necessarily tied up in too many things. But how did
Exactly.
you map out your schedule? Like, how do you integrate still being the one who does consultations, designs, and proposals while you have new employees like working on installs?
Yeah. So we only install 3 days a week. We install Tuesday through Thursday, and then Monday and Friday are admin days for me. So I was able to, for the first few weeks, only do consultations on Fridays. And that way, I was guaranteed if I was needed, I would be able to be there for them the first few weeks. After I felt like they kind of got comfortable and like I probably was able to leave for consultations, I would book consultations in the middle part of the day, like, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., for example, in the middle of the day, so that I could leave and then come back and finish and end, or excuse me, start and end the day with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love the extra support of ending the day with them, especially, kind of like packing up and like what can we leave here? What can we not? Like those there's a lot of questions there. Uh, Personally, I ended up doing a lot of like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock consultations because I felt
Mm,
like if I could work with them until then, like generally it was kind of like finish up the last tasks, clean up, drive back was really all that was left for the
yeah,
latter,
exactly.
2 hours of the day. So it was an easy time for me to piece out and feel like all of the knowledge transfer had already happened.
For sure. Yeah, I noticed that as well. It was definitely important to start and end the day with them, though, to make sure they felt confident and kind of knew what to do.
Is there anything you would add to like this conversation about people power and growing the business and hiring?
Yeah, there is something I would add. I was just going to say for all of my fear, and if somebody's listening right now who's on the precipice of hiring and is also feeling that like gut level fear, um, man, the other side is great. Like the other side of it is a boatload of fun. Like it is it is such a weight off of my shoulders to have a staff that is competent and smart. It is so much better than I could have ever imagined. Like in my wildest dreams, I feel like I could not have imagined that having a staff and having colleagues and coworkers would be this successful, just in terms of our day-to-day operations, but also like this much fun. Like the job is really fun again because of them.
Mm,
So
that
do
is
it.
so encouraging.
So do it. If you're thinking about doing it, maybe give it a shot. If you're set up financially and you're set up with enough jobs lined
Yeah.
up, so worth it.
And some people like that is just not necessarily their cup of tea with like the the fun and the hiring of other people, but like for you and me, it just felt sounds like we were similarly aligned in the idea of working collaboratively and creating that team energy, especially
Yeah.
when doing manual labor. It is just really feels supportive to not
Yeah. Yeah.
not be
And yeah, like
shoveling
you
by
said,
yourself.
it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And I guess the one other thing I would say is that the earlier on you can write down your systems, um, and like the term standard operating procedure makes me want to fall asleep, but it is really like one of the most important tools in your tool bucket as a business owner to like having a successful handoff, for roles. Like that's been really transformative for us. Having really clear, I mean, just crystal clear systems down to the email templates of like what's happening, when is it happening, who's doing it. We're continuing to build out our standard operating procedures this year so that we can have some like position transfers into our staff, and it's been really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I love that tip. That is just something I was not thinking about really early and love that suggestion and wish I was doing more SOP like standardizing in the early years so that onboarding was just way more straightforward. But one of the things
Yeah.
that I find fascinating is that you were able to grow the business. It's one thing to kind of have the temerity to go out and make the hires and like jump off the cliff and say, even though I don't know exactly what's going to happen, like things are looking good. The forecast looks, 70 and sunny, but you had to bring those gigs in. And I'm just want some of your reflection on how you got to the place where the gigs were bigger, the gigs were more exciting, and what do you attribute that to?
Yeah. I think a few different things. I think time really does make a difference. The longer you're around, the more people trust you. I think community and networking also makes a difference. The primary ways that we advertise or that we get new clients, the biggest way, which I never in a million years could have guessed 5 years ago, but the biggest way people find us is through our website. People Google something like, garden help, vegetable garden help, Columbus, Ohio, and we're always the first one that pops up. So I've spent a good chunk of time and energy like working on our search engine optimization and making sure our website looks really good. And I feel like, for people though, like lean into your strengths because I also do teaching in classes and I've also gotten like clients from, classes at the local library or local garden schools or, the Home and Garden show is coming up for us in Columbus and like I'll be doing a class there. Like anywhere you can lean into your skills, to get new clients has been helpful. But for us, it's primarily been classes and workshops, which are a good like entry level thing for people who are interested in it. And then our website has just shockingly brought a ton of people in.
Yeah. So anything that you've done specifically that feels like it's been a unlock for your SEO?
Yeah, so we use Squarespace and they have a whole, if you Google SEO checklist Squarespace, they have a whole entire checklist that you can follow to like optimize your search engine. And it's a lot easier than I thought. Like I'm tech savvy enough to do it, but I'm not like, an Einstein with computer stuff. I think most folks in the modern age could probably handle it. Um, the other thing I feel like did actually make a difference was we started using this strategy where we were offering like a freebie on our website. Like we made this I keep saying we, but it was me. I get used to saying we, so it makes us sound bigger than we are.
It's okay.
But I made this like planting calendar um on our and we have it as like a freebie on our website so people get the calendar in exchange for an email, and it's really nice because now we have like a newsletter following, and if we are sort of low on consultations or we're like trying to give people a nudge and remind them about whatever that we're here, there's a class or whatever the thing is, we have this list of people that we can tap into. So the freebie strategy where you give out a freebie in exchange for an email is really helpful
Yeah.
for us, I should say.
Yeah. Good advice for us at the Foodscaper here. But yeah, I love the idea of just using your network, or I should say your website, instead of feeling like you have to lean into the social media piece, because that just, I think for so many of us, like we want to find ways to grow our audience without necessarily having to feel like we can do the social media piece. So I think you've laid out some really great ideas there.
Yeah. I think with social media, I just found it to feel very draining. I think there's some people who really can do it and like feel like it's energizing and exciting and it taps into their creative potential. And I tried to do that and it just wasn't for me. Um, so yeah, the website thing just happened to work better for me. But like I said, I think people have all kinds of different like skills and inspirations, and they should just follow whatever makes the most sense for them.
I want to jump in real quick and just say that if you are building an edible landscaping business right now, I know what that feels like. You love the work, you believe in it, but some days you are just pricing jobs alone. You're solving plant sourcing issues alone. You're figuring out hiring alone. And the people in your network just don't understand what you're trying to build. And that's exactly why we created the Foodscaper cohort. It's a small group of foodscapers at a similar stage of business. We meet once a month, we talk shop, we solve real problems, and we hold each other accountable. This isn't a course, it's not pre-recorded lessons, it's your people. If that sounds like something that you've been missing, go to thefoodscaper.com/cohort and apply today. Time, SEO,
Mhm.
talks, classes, networking, all these things just like organically growing the business. Give us some of the juicy excitement that has come your way in the last 2 years that has really allowed you to, yeah, grow the business. I mean, what kind of work have you been doing? Tell us some success stories or some things that you just feel really proud of.
Yeah. Yeah, we always have like what I would call like classic garden installations on the roster, like people who want like raised bed vegetable gardens of all varying sizes, shapes, and types. Um, One of the major things that I couldn't have guessed 5 years ago, but one of the major things that has been really helpful in creating stability in the business is getting like, I don't want to call them corporate clients, but like clients that are a part of an institution or organization. Um, so just to give you a couple of examples,
Yeah.
we work with the city of Columbus on a few of their like rec center community garden locations. We like plan them, maintain them, and then we hire an educator every summer to do like garden classes with their summer camps, right?
Hmm.
Um, Another example is we have this big like community garden project that we help manage and maintain as well. And those kinds of jobs are golden for stability because those people, unlike homeowners, understandably, they don't care when we come and go for the most part, as long as it still looks good. They pay fairly well. Like, we kind of bill by the hour, so it's really helpful. And I guess more than anything, it's like if we finish a job early or we need to like bump something back because we're running a little bit late on a job, for a homeowner who tends to have a lot more like specific time requirements and desires about when you're in and out of their space.
Yeah.
Again, understandably so. Like you can pop over to the community garden instead and work on that. Still have work for your staff and your employees and still
Hmm.
be billing hours, which is really nice. So those jobs, like if you can get them, are just both in both cases, they kind of fell into our lap. Like I didn't do any particular work to make that happen. They just like found out about us, I guess, and contacted us that way. But they're really, really great jobs to have on your roster, for stability.
How does a community garden find the funds to pay?
Yeah. In this case, it was through an HOA. So it's for what are they called? Like the new build communities. And they have built a community garden for their residents in the community. And then they pay us through their HOA fees. However, we have with the city, they're funded by a grant. So they have a grant that they apply for and receive most years. And then that's how we are paid through them.
That's amazing. We
Yeah,
need so much more support from community gardens for community gardens because they are, yeah, go through the boom and bust cycles and hard to keep up with, and energy, is hard to find sometimes. So I love
definitely.
the idea of there just being this other mechanism, which is actually just paying for some support to make sure that the community garden remains successful and serves its goal of like community building. And there's other things that we pay for services for, whether it's like the community pool. It's like
Hmm. Exactly.
we pay for, pool company support to make sure that it is, clean and ready each summer for everybody. And it doesn't mean that people aren't like still gonna aren't dedicated to a community vibe if they don't manage every aspect of it themselves, I guess.
Totally. Anybody who's been gardening for any amount of time knows that gardens need some management to stay sustainable. So we've been really lucky to get those jobs. But even if it's not the ongoing kind of work, like we actually made a flyer that was specifically addressing community gardens, and we sent it out to a bunch of our community gardens here in Central Ohio
Hmm.
because a lot of the times, like, with community gardens, sometimes there's only like 1 to 3 people running it, and they
Yeah.
get a grant to install this really great thing, and they don't have the person power or the knowledge or the skills to actually be able to do it. So we've also had some jobs where we work with a really great local community organization um, that is like doing pop-up gardens all over our area.
Okay.
And they often will solicit us to build, repair, install these garden spaces if they don't have the person power or the skills sometimes to do it. So those are really great, great clients to tap into as well because it feels really good too. Like it's serving so many more people. Those spaces are. It's really great.
Does anything else come to mind that you're feeling excited or proud of?
I mean, we've just had some really big installs that I never could have dreamed of doing 5 years ago, like just skill level wise. Because we have Joe, my partner, who's just a really skilled, talented, precise builder. It's really fun to watch him build these gardens. Um, just our skill level as a staff has bumped up so much. Like we do irrigation now in a way that we couldn't have 5 years ago. Like um, the jobs are bigger. We did this really cool like totally deer proof enclosed keyhole garden that was massive for one of our clients out in kind of a rural area. And seeing projects come together like that is so satisfying because sometimes it's just fun. It's just really big and fun. So
It is so exciting to feel like you can hire people that increase the skill level of your business, not just support you as the person who started the business and who maybe brings like one piece of the expertise of the business, but like building the expertise of the business horizontally.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So Is Joe an integral part of the business? You mentioned kind of the three of us before. Is it the four of you now?
Yeah, so it is the four of us. So he is not a staff person though, so he's still solicited as a subcontractor. And we do it that way because not every job requires like a full 3 days of building, you know? Like sometimes it's just like one raised bed and he can be there for a day and then he leaves again. Or some days, we really, it's like an all hands on deck kind of situation and we need all four of us to be there. And sometimes it's not. So, and that way he can have space in his schedule for other like, because he does interior remodeling as well. So he can have space in his schedule for other interior remodeling projects too.
Yeah, I imagine he came with all kinds of tools as opposed to
Yes.
skills too.
Which I fully take advantage of. Yes, definitely.
Oh my gosh, that is just such a key thing. You don't know what you don't know. And then people like pull out these tools that you just like make life so much easier, add the professional touch in a
For,
way that you just can't do with like simple tools sometimes.
for sure. Yeah, it's been fun to do some cross training this last year with him. Like he has trained our two staff members more on building. And kind of the idea is that maybe eventually he can still tap into some of the more complex builds, you know, a fully enclosed keyhole deer fence, deer proof garden, for example, is a pretty complex build. So he can tap into that kind of stuff. But for, a 3x8 bed, probably our staff will be able to handle it eventually. And just it'd be pretty seamless when we're installing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had this really great year of growth, and it seems like you're kind of like riding this wave of excitement. We were talking before that there's like, you know, a big spring coming up your way. What are the things you're looking forward to now that you're kind of stepping into these new shoes and just taking on this dual role now, the dual role of being like people management and project management, not just the projects, but yeah, how are you approaching this year? What do you think is going to be different? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, there's going to be a few things that are really different, and there's so much I'm looking forward to. So, I think one of the major things that's going to be different is both of our staff members, they were both part-time in 2025, and they are both going, God willing, the creek don't rise, full-time in 2026. So one of them will become our installation manager, and we're still going to be installing 3 days a week. And this installation manager, she'll be doing her administrative stuff, pick up, drop off, truck organization, admin stuff on Mondays and Fridays, with some flexibility in there. And then the other staff person will be a crew member for 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days a week she'll be doing office work. So stuff like client outreach, marketing, and maybe some flexibility in there too with like if we have to finish something up on a Friday. So, with that in mind, one of the things I'm most excited about this year is offloading some of my day-to-day tasks onto them, which sounds a little selfish, but it frees me up a lot more to like grow the business more and to address more consultations. Like just because of how much I was doing last year. I was training, being an installation manager, and doing all of our consultations and proposals at the same time last spring. Like, I just could do limited consultations every week. And as we know, spring is consultation time. Like the summer, the weather warms up and everybody wants us. We know we become famous in the spring. So I'm excited to be having more capacity to do more consultations in the spring so that we can have more clients on our books and just help more people grow food. What was the other half of your question? What I'm excited about?
Yeah, just kind of like how things are going to change going into this year and what are some of the things that you're excited about?
Yeah. And the other thing I'm excited about is the major one that came to mind was that we are as a part of that big community garden project that I was just talking about, there's an in-ground area that we are also in charge of managing. We worked with it a little bit this last year as a test, and we, grew some sunflowers and corn and stuff in there, but I really want to go whole hog in that area and do more of a farm operation. And I'm excited. My background is in farming. Like I've worked on a lot of farms, but I haven't necessarily managed one from start to finish in a season before. So I just feel really personally excited to stretch my skills there because, when so much of what you do is in raised beds, as it has been for me these last 6 years, like growing in ground is really different. So I'm excited to try that out and to test our skills. And it's essentially a demonstration garden uh, and like a you pick kind of garden space. So I'm excited to grow some food for those folks as well.
One of the things we hear from pro foodscapers all the time is this need for more community, connection, and education. And that's why we've created the Foodscaper membership. This is our online forum and learning space just for pro foodscapers. You can share your work, get feedback from me and other professionals, and watch dozens of classes in our training library. It's just $29. First month is free. We would love to see you there. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're always kind of finding that place to like push our boundaries, but not feel too uncomfortable with where we're going, right? And I just want to commend you for this year of growth where you're continuing to, add more hours to people and affirm that, of course, like giving delegation of responsibilities is just part of the evolution of the business, and it means that they're getting to grow too and gain experience and further their careers too, in a way it's a gift to them because then it means that the gate is maybe one day open for them to train and support somebody. If it's only when you've walked in the shoes can you kind of like support somebody in that role.
Yeah, 100%. And they both seem really excited too. Yeah, I'm excited to pass off that knowledge, and I think they're going to have a really fun year with it as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I want to think about just like the future, at this point you are really in it, 6 years, like this is not just a little baby anymore, but like, a toddler, small child, like running free. And once that kind of energy is unleashed in the world, right, we're just like kind of standing back as parents, just like making sure that
Yeah.
safety is being abided by, but like inertia is just inevitable. And
Really is.
how are you thinking about the future? Is that a thing that you've kind of thought about, maybe like what does it look like in 5 years to grow the business, and what does your dream really life look like? Not business, but like I feel
Mm.
like we use business and work to just be an expression of how we want to move through the world, and once you can support your livelihood through your business, then you get to really
Yeah.
project with more certainty and excitement.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think about the future. I will turn 30 this April, and not that it's a huge deal, but anytime I think you turn a decade, you're just like kind of in that headspace of thinking reflection of the past decade and thinking about the future decade. And um, yeah, I sort of have a vision that I hold very loosely. Like I hold it with open hands and just with the knowledge that things could change and probably will change. But for me, like within the next couple of years, I think the biggest thing that I am like um, sort of preparing both myself and the business for is like the potential to start a family. And as you know, Matt, from having a baby 2.5 years ago, um, yeah, like it changes everything. And so a lot of what, I mean, even today, like it could happen a long time from now, but even today, like I'm going through our standard operating procedures and writing down every single step of things that, when a client first contacts us, what do we do? And all the steps that are involved with that. Um, and it's been cool because it's kind of boring work, but I'm doing it with this labor of love and this intention that like someday I will be able to step away for a short period of time and enjoy being a new parent, maybe. Um, so that's been definitely one of the intentions that has been sown recently. Um, and then I think the other sort of bigger picture, like, 5 to 10 year vision, as one would say, is I would really, really love to see us have an organic nursery operation. I think that would be really fun. Talk to me in 5 years, but I think that'd be really fun. And I think Central Ohio really needs it. Like, I feel like I sort of have always in the business gone where the need is. Like, I started Columbus Foodscapes because I witnessed this need in my community. If it had already existed in the capacity that I wanted it to, then I don't think I would have started a business. Like, I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I just really wanted to see this work in the world. And I feel the same way about a nursery. And I also feel the same way about some kind of garden school or education program. Like, I think it'd be really great to have. I have sort of this, I say I've been holding it with open hands, but this one I actually have kind of been clinging on to. I would love to see like, a classroom. I envision like a kind of earthy classroom building and a demonstration garden that is Columbus Foodscapes that people can come take classes and workshops at. Um, and who knows if it's going to be feasible or my priorities will change or what have you. But if I had to like guess where I was headed and where Columbus Foodscapes was headed, I think those would be the main points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of just following your passions, following what the world needs, what the world is asking for. And also when it comes to things like education and training like that, it just feels like such a smart business move too, because then you basically are getting paid to kind of train people who
Mhm.
want to work with you. And then you have this whole experience of getting to know people who you would potentially like to work with. Like maybe there's carpenters out there who take your class and they're like, I've got all this woodworking skills, but I'm actually really lit up about plants right now. And
Yeah.
you're like, come, we've got an opportunity that we could really just doors like that just tend to open. I feel like once this education exchange happens, it's like the best job interview possibility.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the best opportunity to attract clients too, right? Like, we teach classes and workshops now, but having a more, but they're all over. They're all over in all different types of settings and buildings and in collaboration with existing organizations. And I see it as being our own space, like a Columbus Foodscape specific classroom where other instructors also can come. Like, I do not want this to be a stage for me. I really want it to be a bunch of different people teaching there. Um, and it all feeds into each other really naturally. If you're somebody who is interested in starting gardening, it's a natural fit that you would take one of these classes and then maybe get some garden coaching from us and maybe buy some of our plants too from the nursery. And
Yeah.
I think it's financially an opportunity, but I also think it just makes a lot of sense in like a connected community way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes me think about a training that we have both done, Watershed Management Group in Tucson.
Yeah, bingo. Yes, totally.
And they have a model that is a little bit similar, and I won't go into it now, but I've sang the praises of Watershed Management Group on so many podcasts now. So, we don't have a ton of time left. I want to transition us down a little bit and just kind of think back on that, like that first interview that we had that, I don't know, I think that was like 4 years ago at this point. And just if you could go back and talk to your foodscaper self from 5 years ago, what advice would you give her?
Uh, um, I think I would tell her to keep a work journal. Um, it sounds a little funny. I did keep a work journal sometimes throughout the years, but I didn't update it all that much. But it is so fulfilling now to go back through it and look at what I was thinking about and writing about 5 years ago. And it's really cool and fulfilling in a very unique way to see like um yeah, like the things like 5 years ago I would have been writing like, oh, I'm thinking about implementing this process or like I think we should switch our proposal model from this to this. And you know you just like are constantly working out these kinks in the early years, and then now it's really cool now because it's like so seamless and I don't even think about it because it's kind of set. And so some of those things and some of the moments that were really hard, it's great to look back on as well and be like, wow, like we really solved that problem. So I think that's one piece of advice I would give her. And the other piece of advice I might give would be just to slow down just a little. I just,
Always easy advice to give, very hard to take.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Our staff early this spring, like assigned like we were just weeding one day and we were like, what animal would you be if you were an animal? And um my staff told me that they thought I would be like a desert jackrabbit, just like very fast and sometimes not always super grounded. So it's, like or just kind of speedy. So yeah, I think I would tell myself just to slow down just a hair.
Yeah. How about what you did right early on that feels like that was key and I didn't know it at the time?
Yeah. I always really prioritized connection, especially with our clients. Like, I feel like I've always taken extra time to check in with them, to ask how they're doing, maybe when it was called for to even get a little personal. And I'm really glad I have done that because it just has enriched it has both enriched my day-to-day life and also I think it enriches their experience um, so much. Like I feel like a vegetable garden or a foodscape is so much more of an intimate production and thing than just like getting your lawn mowed. You know what I mean? Like we're both service workers, but it's a different thing. And having that touch and like um that really heartfelt, sincere connection has been really useful. And I think it just also plays into my strengths. Like I just happen to kind of be that kind of person anyway, so it was kind of easier for me to do.
Yeah, just playing to your strengths. I just feel like that's such a motto for people to lean into and really sometimes requires like naming and maybe doing
Totally.
some exercises of like where do I shine? Like what are my greatest gifts? What are the things that come naturally to me and as opposed to, trying to lean into some identity or that our culture is trying to, impose upon us.
Totally. Yeah, I think there can be this sense of shame that can come up if there's something you're bad at or that's something that you don't where an area where you don't necessarily shine. And I think like playing to your strengths helps buffer that shame, and like we're all needed in this world. So it really helps there. And just to piggyback off of that too, like the other piece of advice I would give myself is to prioritize like what I would call like inner work.
Hmm.
Like starting a business and running a business is so triggering sometimes. Like it feels so personal, you know what I mean? Like when things go wrong or if, a client is having an issue, like it just feels so personal. And I think like for me, it has been totally transformative to take every um this word is overused, I think, but I think you'll know what I mean by it. Like take every like trigger, like hard moment and really see it as like your greatest teacher and the greatest opportunity for growth because it always, for me, it always is. And I think for most people, it always is.
Yeah, we have to be grateful for the hard moments. Without them, there is no growth, of course. So,
Really, yeah,
yeah, we got
yeah.
to kill a lot of plants, unfortunately, to be really, if you're a really good grower, it means you've killed a lot of plants.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
If you're somebody who's listening and they're like, you get a chance to speak to somebody who's feeling a little bit still scrappy and still like, how am I going to get this business to the next level where it sounds like Katie's gotten, she's got it all figured out. Like
Wow.
what advice would you share with that person?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to somebody who's in like that scrappy beginning is to find mentorship as soon as possible if you don't already have it. And if you do have it, don't be afraid to really lean on it and request more mentorship. Um, my business models are like directly uh borrowed, stolen. I don't know what the word there would be from people like you, Matt, from Melissa from Rustic Hills Garden Co., who's like a huge mentor of mine. And something else that I would really recommend is like if you have the financial capacity, like paying for mentorship, even like I have, there have been a lot of instances where I have a specific problem that I'm working through. I have a list of questions and I will email or text or whatever people in my mentorship circle and say, hey, could I have an hour of your time and I'll just pay you your going rate if that's okay. And actually, most of the time, most people are so pumped to help that they don't even charge me, which is really nice. Like, I think that, I guess really the advice is like, you would be surprised how much um, folks are like willing to help and excited to help because we've all been there before. And I still, even 6 years in, like I still am calling up you, Matt, in the middle of a job sometimes, or calling up Melissa at the end of the year. Like, there's just, there's so much wisdom there that you can only get through experience, and leaning on your mentors is just so helpful and so important. And like, especially, I mean, I found you all through the Foodscaper, which has been like just an irreplaceable resource for me, connecting with these kinds of people, and just, yeah, lean into that, keep learning.
I think we'll end it there, Katie, with that note of inspiration on mentorship and just being there for one another and just wanting to share. And that is just why we are here at the Foodscaper anyway. This would never was like some business model that we wanted to figure out. It was just like we just wanted to be of support and learn ourselves and help foster connection. And that has led us to you at Columbus Foodscapes. I'm so grateful that it has, because not only, of course, has it become a friendship, but your, 2 podcast recordings and being at the conferences, and you've just been able to share so much wisdom with the world, now mentoring others, I'm sure. So it's all just one big exercise in paying it forward. And just want to thank you so much, truly, for taking the time to speak today.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Stay scrappy.
Alrighty, friends, thank you so much for spending this time with us. This episode was edited and produced by Rachel Kaplan. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would be oh so grateful if you would take a minute to review the podcast or share it with one of your groovy friends who's also into foodscaping. The music that you hear in this podcast is one of my tunes called Honeydew, and you can hear the full album at nobigdeal.bandcamp.com. Thank you all so much for listening to The Foodscaper, and we will see you at the next episode.
With a micro